Hi folks, this is Tom. Today we're going to revisit the 66 GTO receiver as we finally have a breakthrough on it. First thing I'm going to do is show you how to take this board off here. If you look, once you get the case off, you have one 1/4 inch drive screw here, another 1/4 inch drive screw here, another 1/4 inch drive screw here. You also need to pull these little washers off right here, and then very carefully unsolder these 6 RF connections right here. Once you've done that, you can carefully wiggle this board out and the board will flip over and you can get access to it. Okay, according to the book, we want to have 12.6 volts on this. We've done that here. I've got my signal generator here. Let's run down what I actually found. We had a few things that were causing this thing to go bad here. The main complaint was that this audio transistor right here basically took off like a rocket. It was pulling about 2 or 3 amps and getting quite hot. What I found the issue there was eventually was this 600 ohm bias pot, which goes in right here. This part is very difficult to get a hold of. I ordered one off of eBay, a Delco part. I believe the 64 to 69 Corvette radios have these in them as well, and that's what the part is. So we've got that on order. In the meantime, what I've done is I've taken a 500 ohm pot and wired it in here in place of the 600 ohm pot, and I've run values on this. What you're supposed to do is to take the voltage on the collector of this transistor and take the pot here and set it for 1.4 volts on that. So it's pulling a little bit of current. It's warm to the touch here, but it's not super hot. So what you've done is you've biased it to the right point. So this is the main issue right here, and from what I understand is these guys here go bad. They may not be obtainable, but again, that's the phone here getting into the receiver circuit on the radio. If you look, I took this 500 ohm pot, and I've basically put 2 leads on here, and I've used this to dial this in to see where it needs to be biased at. And get ready, folks. If you've got small children, you may want to have them go to the other room. Let's see, I'll give you a little count. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and ta-da! It's a cheesy graphic, yay! Okay, for bias voltage here, for 1.3 volts on the transistor, it's about 305 ohms from that one spot there to ground. The book says 1.40 volts, and it's about 323 ohms. If you go 1.5 volts, it's about 362 ohms. And if you go 1.60 ohms, it's about 387 ohms to ground. So you can see here that you've got a good range, so you can find a resistance value at 2 watts that will be about right for you, and you can actually drop a fixed resistor in if you absolutely positively can't get the part. Of course, you always check it to make sure that that voltage on the back of the transistor here is what you want to see. Okay, so this pot here, that was the main issue. I also had a problem here on the front end where this transistor right here, the amplifier transistor, RF amp transistor, wasn't working. There was voltage on the collector, but nothing on the emitter or the base. And what I found was that this little one right here had gone bad on us. This is a 30 microfarad 6-volt capacitor, and it is essentially gone leaky, so there's actually about 300 and some ohms on it to ground, and that basically shorted out the base and the emitter of the RF amp transistor, so there was no way that was going to work. So I had really low sensitivity. Okay, folks, I'm back. What I've done is I've taken our miscreant capacitor here, and I put them on my tester here. I've got the capacitance leakage test at 6 volts, and it says here with larger aluminum electrolytics, which this is, 10,000 microamps max. That's going to be 10 milliamps. And if we press leakage, oh dear God, look at what happened there. It's way beyond the chart here. So this thing's done. And if we measure value, remember this thing should be 30 microfarads. We're seeing nothing there. And occasionally what it'll do is it'll actually show up at 100 plus, and that's just a function of it looking at leakage. It doesn't like that at all. ESR says it's okay, but trust me, this thing's done. Okay, I've worked on a couple of other older radios here from the 1960s, and what I found was that all of the electrolytic capacitors were questionable. And out of a Telefunken, I believe it was a Jubilat 205, there were, I think, 11 electrolytic caps in there. 10 of them were demonstrably bad, and one was questionable. So since those are, gosh, pushing almost 60 years at this point, I replaced all the electrolytic caps, and that unit came back to life again. So there's a 10 microfarad at 12 volts, and here's a 100 microfarad at 4 volts. You can always replace these with a higher voltage, just as long as the capacitance is the same. So I think I've put some higher voltage ones in there, well over 12 volts, and they're all good to go. The other thing I found was that there's a second audio transistor in here, and this guy right here, and this guy was bad. Let's fire up this transistor tester. We take a look at it here now, and look what we see. Yes, it looks like it's working, but you also see there's a diode hooked between the collector and the emitter, and guaranteed that's not what the original transistor had in it. So this thing's gone. I replaced that. What I wound up doing with that is going into my vast junk box and pulling out a suitable looking transistor from the 1960s, and I did an HFE, a gain test here, and the original transistor wants to be about 125 to 150 HFE. I found one that had about 143 HFE, so I just popped that in there and it's working. Okay, let's actually hear this thing. I got my signal generator running, and we're going to turn it on here. Boom. Oh, we have nothing. Okay, let's go ahead and plug this in and watch what happens here. It's going to draw a little bit of power, 2 amps, and it's going to drop down to a little less than an amp, and you hear it. And here we go. That's 1,200 kilocycles, about 31 microamps. So it's not a great performer, but it works right there. There you go. And we can run the amplitude up. So there we go, folks. It has life. Thanks for watching.